Hello, Athlete Mindset community. This is Lisa Bontasumi, the host of Athlete Mindset. Before we dive into this episode, I want to invite you to support the mission and purpose of our show. For $10 a month, you can help to make sure these conversations get to as many athletes, teams, coaches, and sport mental health environments as possible. As a subscriber, you will receive exclusive content and updates on current topics in athlete mental health, and you'll be directly contributing to the betterment of mental health for all athletes. Join the cause. Subscribe at sportse.io/athlete and make a difference today. Again, that's sportse.io/athlete. With your support and amplification, we can ensure more voices are heard and more individuals and communities are positively impacted. I'm super excited to have Bianca McCall today with us on the Athlete Mindset podcast. We're going to have so much fun talking, conversating, and just spending some time together here. So Bianca, thanks for taking the time to be with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this chat all day.
Yay, as have I. So I'm going to tell the people a little bit about you and then we'll jump right in.
All right, sounds good.
Bianca is a retired professional women's basketball player, a TEDx speaker, and a renowned mental health expert, developer of the Well Excel health courses and training delivered to K through 12 schools, colleges, universities, and sports clubs across the United States. Bianca is a licensed clinical therapist, a seasoned founder and CEO in healthcare, and creator of the newest social emotional platform, Reach In Now. I do have to say, and she's dope, and she's my friend, and an all-around just cool people. So I have to add that.
Thank you. Yeah, you got to let them know.
Gotta let them know, for sure. For sure. One thing, too, we have to say, you were raised in Oakland. I live here in the Alameda, Oakland area. So we have that connection. We met at TEDx Wilmington, not this past year, but the year before. And that's how we got connected. So I'm just excited for the ways we've stayed connected over that time and doing this conversation together. So I'm going to start with this. Tell me about your pro basketball career.
Ooh, it's been some years, Lisa. It's been some years.
Yes, okay.
But to be honest with you, I love when people ask me about playing basketball because you know from being an elite athlete that in our minds, right? Like our minds never let go of that whole spirit, mind, it's our bodies that age out and transition from our careers. But you ask me right now to meet you on the court and play some ball, I'm gonna be like, I'll be right there. I got shoes trunk, right? What my body does is gonna be something a little bit different, right?
I can totally relate. Yes, yes.
Yeah. And for me, so playing professionally, I played in Venice, Italia. That's where I ended my career. This is in 2004. When professional women's basketball in the States was in a much different place than it is today. Thankfully, we've got some support and some buzz and some excitement surrounding professional women's basketball with the WNBA. But in 2004, it was really just kind of getting started. We had some excellence, on the court, the originals, Coop and like the whole Houston squad. I used to love like Tina Turner and Tina Thompson, excuse me. And all of them dominating on the court. But just the buzz around it, the support around professional women's basketball wasn't what it is today. And I kind of like to just touch on that a little bit, just women's sports in general. We need the love, we need the support, we need the sponsorships, we need our male counterparts in the professional sports space to lift us up, right? Because you've got some excellent performers in sports that are out there dedicating their lives, sacrificing their bodies to perform and to inspire next generation. So I'm happy to say that, the experiences of playing overseas definitely shaped who I am today and what I do. And those experiences on the court, inspired me to be a champion off the court as well. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of, share how that is, what that connection is and how that translates to who I am, as a woman well after retirement. Right?
Yes, of course.
Playing pro ball.
No, I love that. You're a champion off the court as well. Well, I mean, considering that women's pro ball back in the day wasn't as accessible possible, like what led you there and to go out of the country? That was kind of a newish thing, if I'm not mistaken, back then. It was a big leap for a lot of young ladies to like leave the country to play the game they love. So,
Yeah, I
what was
mean,
that like?
that was the only option, because like I
Yeah.
said, WNBA wasn't really established or
But that
as
can be
well
intimidating
established.
though, Bianca. I mean, like to leave the country. I mean, had
Listen,
you ever been out of the country before?
I did. I actually got to play in kind of like a showcase tournament in Italy prior to going out there and playing for a
Okay.
season.
Okay. Okay.
Our college team at Washington State, go Cougs,
Let's
um,
go.
let's go. We were able to go out and play and showcase. So I had that
Okay.
experience. And then, being an athlete, especially like when you're playing D1, you're traveling so much. And then, before D1, it was AAU ball.
True. True.
I think it's that travel bug in you, right? Which to me, AAU particularly played such a significant role in just not only my life as a basketball player, but just my life as a young woman, right? I have siblings. I got two younger brothers that also played ball. One of them was active in AAU as well. But for me, being able to travel with the AAU team and see this beautiful country, that we
Yeah.
live in,
Yep.
see different states, interact with people from different walks of life, different cultural backgrounds, coming from the Bay, that we thrive on that, right? Like
Yeah.
that
True.
diversity. But being able to just really see that this world is bigger than my hometown, it's bigger than the Bay.
Hmm.
There's not much that, when you grow up in the Bay, it's not much that's bigger than the Bay, right? But
Let's be clear,
let's
but
be clear, but the experience of being able to see so many different places. So it wasn't as intimidating for me to travel overseas
mm,
because I'd already had that bug kind of like embedded, and ingrained. I was always looking to elevate my game, elevate and increase the size of the stage, right? So it was something for me, when you grow up and you have aspirations to play, I grew up an All American, I wanted to play in the McDonald's game, that was my
hmm,
aspirations. And then, after that, it's you want to play for USA, like
yeah,
you just set the bar, you keep raising the bar. So for me, it was just natural progression. Like this is how I can get to a larger stage. And I went for it, man. I went for it. And my story, injury, it's the body that, like I said,
yeah,
with your mind and with your spirit, what you believe that you are capable of, the physical nature of the game is usually what kind of throws you, like it's a
yeah.
little bit different than what you believe in your mind and in your heart and your spirit, what you can accomplish.
Right, right. No, all of that's super, super important to note. I mean, I think traveling as a young player in AAU and like me in club soccer, like I get that whole travel bug and like, ooh, there's a world outside of here and this is
Huh?
cool. And ooh, look at these people and look, I can connect with them. They don't look like me, but they're still like, we speak the same language was our sport, which is cool. And then seeing them in towns and like back in the day, I don't know if this was it. We would when we traveled, we would actually stay with a host family on the host club. Whoever's hosting that tournament, we'd
Mhm.
stay with their team instead of going in hotels.
Oh, wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so that, I mean, days are different now, obviously, but I was telling my daughter about that because she travels with softball. And I'm like, dang, back in the day, I'd wake up with like pancakes on the table and we'd all be like, we would go to each other's games and cheer each other's on and like make friends. And
Yeah,
then
I
when
love
we
that.
hosted, we would
Mhm.
like have the same players kind of like deepen the relationship and like, just cheer each other on and like look forward to the next tournament to see each other. But we would live towns and towns away from each other, sometimes states. But I remember that really, really poignantly. And I think it was a really good experience. But you said the travel helped you grow as a young lady. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, again, just perception. Perception is everything, and perception
Mm,
is definitely a significant factor in sports, like when you're
mm,
competing, right? How
mm,
you perceive different situations, how you perceive yourself in your own
mm,
performance, how you perceive yourself fitting into a system, whether that be an athletic system,
mm-hmm.
but even, as you like when you compete in college, it's the college organization, the culture, everything, right?
Right.
So for me, traveling, it's kind of like a rubber band, right? Like the more you stretch a rubber band, the
Mm,
more experiences in life, I'll kind of relate it to that.
mm,
The more elasticity that you have and the more flexibility that you have. And
mm,
so for me, traveling, Like you mentioned, meeting new people, seeing people, from different cultures, different walks of life. And your experience sounds amazing, being able to have that kind of intimate experience where it's like family to family. I love that and how that's married with sports, right? Like we champion as a family, as a team, as a squad. So, it definitely helped me to be more flexible and adaptable with people, with circumstances, because for me, AAU, I didn't have that experience of being hosted by a family, but I certainly didn't have the experience that these young people have now where they're staying, they're taking care of, right? Like they're staying in nice hotels and
Yeah.
largely because, hey, shout out to the parents of athletes, largely due to your hard work and your sacrifice and your, making payments to make sure that your athlete has the experience. So shout out
For
to you.
sure.
But for us,
It's a whole line item, but in our budget.
right, right. No, seriously, like
Yeah.
it's a whole bill.
It is. It's a whole entire bill.
Whole entire, it's maybe a couple bills for people, right? Like, and for me growing up, it was certainly a bill for my family. But this is when AAU, kind of starting to get some momentum as well. And shout out to Golden State AAU team, Doug Halcrow.
Nice. Nice.
He was the coach for the AAU team. But Doug, he was a frugal guy. He was a frugal guy. So the hotels that we were staying in, it was less is more, but that's okay because we played hard. I love that experience. But again, it's adaptable, right? I could make something out of very little, or I could maintain the perspective on what's really important, right? It's the experience, it's the camaraderie, the sisterhood on the team. It's
Right.
something that I will say with Doug, he always made sure that or Coach Hal Crow, out of respect, he always made sure that we had some type of experience no matter where we were that we were traveling. So we're in Lubbock, Texas, at Texas Tech playing
Right.
in
Love
a
it. Texas.
in a tournament. We're going to appreciate the experience of community. And I remember the Golden Corral in Lubbock. I remember the flying roaches in Lubbock. Like I remember the actual just community and culture, on top of the games and the competition. So yeah, just to kind of like to your point or to your question, traveling, the AAU experience was just so significant. And it's, to me, I would hate to see, Lisa, that money, prevents people from being able to have that experience, right? And going back to, our parents out there that are sacrificing, that are, there's line items and things like that in the budget. There's a risk right now that having this experience being marketable
Right.
and recruiting prospect and all those things are becoming cost prohibitive because if you
Right.
can't afford to be on these teams, if you can't afford the gear,
Exactly.
you can't afford even just to create the content and to get it in the hands of the coaches, then your talent, if you can't afford to be visible, then that makes it cost prohibitive.
For
And
sure. For
and that's
sure.
really a fear that I have right
Yep.
now for such an important space, for our young people and our young athletes. And especially
Yep.
when we talk about athletes from marginalized communities, from
Yep.
underserved, from underrepresented communities, just straightforward Black and brown families. It's a worry of mine that just how special AAU is. It's a worry of mine that it's not going to be accessible to everyone.
No, I agree, Bianca, and I share that worry. Actually, I can show you, but our listeners aren't going to share. I had a note right next to what we were just talking about, pay to play.
Pay to
I
play.
had written that down before you brought it up. I was like, my girl going there already. Like I didn't even have to say anything.
I'm here for it.
But I'm not surprised because we are of like mind that way that like, what is this turning into where you have to pay to play to have access to even get on the field or the court or whatever it is that you have these big bills. Like literally, I could show you my bank statement. Like every few months, there's another installment. And that's not to mention hotels, travel, gas, uniforms, airline tickets, food, all the things we have to do to get our player, our kid to be able to play. And I'm grateful and blessed that we can do that, like for the daughter that we have in our life. But like there's a lot of daughters and sons who don't have access, and that we will, I know you and I will have some action items for ourselves to make sure that that isn't as big of an issue that we both feel it is right now in our shared and mutual spaces. That's important. And then everybody has private lessons.
Right.
Right. A private coach for this, a private coach for that. And oh, so you're not going to have access to that area of development or support because you can't afford it. Like it's not okay. So You and I could talk for another 4 hours about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of reminds me of the discussion about like the macro economy, right? I think all of us across the lifespan, across all different types of sports, across genders and all of that, we're all having to deal with prioritizing, those line items in the budget, right? And so when you talk about the pay to play, we would be remiss to not talk about what are we having to leave off of the budget, right? What are we having to leave out
Mm,
order to pay to play? Because if we're talking about athletes and families that can't afford to play, then we're also talking about athletes and families that can't afford other necessities, right? That supports the whole person, the whole athlete.
mhm.
And I'm going to talk specifically about our health and our wellness, right?
Yes,
So talk
please.
about, right, you know me. This is
I
what
know. I know. Here we go
so
again. Number
when-
two on the agenda for here was this. So, like, you read
yeah,
my mind. We're on the same page as always. So I love
go
it.
in there.
Bring it,
Go
bring
in
it,
there.
bring it.
Go in there. Yeah, if we can't afford to pay for all those things in order to play, think about, aside from private coaching and private lessons and
Mhm.
things like that, there's also the wellness component and the health component. You and I, Lisa, we've had so many conversations already about
Yes.
just how significant our wellness, our health and our wellness is
Mhm.
on our performance as elite
Mhm.
athletes. And I love, love, love how professional sports organizations are jumping on board with the campaigning for
Yes.
that same messaging.
Yes.
The wholeness, the wellness, mental health is actively being destigmatized. But, there's still a gap, outside of the trends and the campaigns, there's still a gap in the utilization of these
Mhm.
health and wellness services. And there's a lot of reasons for those gaps. There's a lot of barriers that our families are continue to face. And number one is the economic barrier. How can we afford this particular service when, all of the budget is allocated towards just getting them on the bus, getting them on the plane?
Right.
And then, I think we also would be remiss if we didn't talk about the culture for a young person right now is different than when you and I played, and
Mhm.
it's different than most adults can really wrap their minds around. And when I say the culture, I'm talking about Hooper that's like, oh, I need the panda dunks. I need the panda dunks mids, in order to be able to play. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like this is
Yeah.
real. This is real. Like I need
Yep.
I need an iPhone. I need the Panda Dunks. I need, like for Instagram, I need to, flex with this, with that. And I'm not going to say that there weren't incidentals. I'm going to call them incidentals. Sake of my father who may be listening to this, but the incidentals that like my father had to pay for when I was on AAU, because being away for the first time, I had that experience that most people have, when they go away to college. I had that in AAU where I was on
Mhm.
planes and going different
Mhm.
places for the
Mhm.
first time as a young person. And I was wilding a little bit, like as far as food, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to the store and I'm gonna get like all these Gatorades and all the snacks, like everybody's gonna come to my room because I got all the snacks and I'm gonna buy these electronics and stuff." I remember I bought a portable TV and my dad called me. He was like, "Bianca, if you don't put that credit card away, you don't put that card away, like you're done. You're done with."
Okay, that's what the incidentals are. I was like, is she gonna name them? Is she gonna tell me what they are? A
Yeah,
portable
no.
TV. Okay.
Okay, that was the worst of the purchases, but you get me, right? You're tracking where
Yes, I am
nowadays
tracking.
the culture, for our young people, in order for them to achieve that sense of belonging, achieve
Mm,
that, again, perspective of
right.
who they are or what they can accomplish, it's costly. Like it costs money to be able to support
Mm,
that. And it's more and more, everything's inflated right now. And so yeah, when we talk about pay to play, my point is that it's more than just, uniforms and flights and that it's a whole cost. It's you're building a brand essentially is what
mm,
society has kind of told our athletes is what you have to do. The cost to build a brand or to build a business or to launch a business is insurmountable for a lot of our families, right?
yes.
Without that community support, especially.
Yes. Yes. I mean, we are moving into deeper discussions that I knew we would have, and it's awesome. But like, what brought you to be so passionate about mental health, wellness, so much so that you would choose a career as a licensed mental health clinician, and now bringing in Reach and Now, which we're going to dive into as well. But what about your experience growing up as an athlete, as the woman that you are in your family, in your hometown, all the experiences that shaped you to be who you are? What led you to choose mental health as a career?
Gosh, I'm going to be honest, Lisa. I battled with a lot of mental health issues and challenges
Mhm.
without even knowing it, right? I thought it
Mhm,
was
mhm,
normal. I
mhm.
thought it was a normal process for me. Like, for example, before games would start, we'd be doing layup lines. And before the game, I'd always run back into the locker room and I'd upchuck, you know? And I thought
Mhm,
that was just that was my process, right? I just get the
mm.
nerves because as soon as the ball went, as soon as we tipped the ball, I was cool. I was a
Yep,
game, and
yep, yep.
I didn't realize that I was dealing with some anxiety, right?
Yes.
Some just general anxiety, and I wasn't able to kind of manage that in a
Mm,
way. I had performance anxiety, and it led to challenges with depression and things because I would beat myself up so badly
mhm,
about my performances, and it
mm,
carried over to my performances in all of my roles in life, as a
mhm,
student, as an athlete, as a daughter, as a sibling, and just interpreting kind of how, my environment, the messages that I was receiving from my environment, and so if those are also negative or if those are also dismissing or diminishing my value, based on being a female athlete, and which is a unique experience to being a male athlete, right? To
mhm.
being a young lady and a young lady of color, all of these different messages, I was challenged with trying to figure out where I fit in outside of my sport because I
Mhm.
knew I fit in on court, I knew I was
Yep.
talented there. But then when I got injured, on the court, that's when kind of everything shattered for me because that was my identity. And if I couldn't be a superstar, basketball player, then who was I? What was I?
Right.
Didn't have anything positive to hold on to. So
Mhm.
I dealt with, some significant mental health challenges with injuries and things like that and didn't even know it. So if I didn't know it, then I certainly wasn't managing it. And so anything that goes on unmanaged for a period of time, it gets worse. Time doesn't
Yes.
heal all wounds. It's
No.
time and you've got to have some skill set to be able to manage that. So for me, having mental health challenges, also dealing with conflicts and even the loss of a teammate, in college, I lost a
Mm.
teammate to suicide. All of these things had such an impact on me, but I was coached so well, Lisa, that throughout my career, my coaches or my parents or the adults in my life, they'd always tell me, just focus on your job, Bianca. Be
Mm.
just basketball, lace up them sneakers and ball. Don't worry about anything else. So that's what I did until my body literally broke down and said, you cannot ignore all the other stuff any longer. And so when I was left without, again, that separation from my body, I didn't have that shield. I had to focus on what was going on with my mental health. And so I remember being in Venice and, coming to that decision point of I got to hang up the jersey. What is my purpose in life? Like
Right.
what am I supposed to do at this point? And I was called to prevent tragedies like suicide and to prevent the tragedies of nobody's talking about all the things, right? We're just talking
Mhm.
sports. I want to prevent that from impacting the lives of next generations, right? And so I have a particular affinity to work with our young people because they're at such a crucial point in their lives, right? That will shape the rest of their lives. I want to help. I've been having this conversation a lot lately, but as athletes, we're taught to disassociate, to
Mhm.
separate, right? So if we feel like there's any risk of injury or harm to us, like physically, like, oh, I'm tired, or this girl on the court is bigger than me. And we disassociate, almost delusional. I think Steph Curry said it at the end of the playoffs last year. He said, I'm just enough delusional to believe I can do anything.
Right.
But that's the training of a champion, right? We
Mm.
disassociate so we can be just enough delusional to believe that we can still champion despite the barriers in our environment, right? But what we're not trained to do as athletes is reintegrate or reconnect as soon as the game's over, right?
Mm.
Instead, we're taught to have a short-term memory, especially if there's a bad injury or bad occurrence, we lose. Instead, we're taught to separate, have a short-term memory and be ready to compete, the next whistle or whatnot. But nobody's teaching young people how to reconnect, right? How to be present, how to be grounded, how to interact with families and friends in between games or in off seasons, or at worst case, transition after your career. So that's what I'm extremely motivated by is, and I have a passion to do is I want to teach performers, not just in sports, but cross over to all the roles in our lives. I want to teach people that are used to performing at a high level to reintegrate, to reconnect, and to be able to process and move through some stuff. So yeah, that's my story in long story, less long, but I'm passionate about it. It started off honestly, Lisa, as this is a way to heal and help myself, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And then I want to share that, with other people. Like, hey, this we may not look the same or live the same or talk the same or, that type of thing. But if we can connect on sports or we can connect on performance or something that I say in my story, then maybe, some of what has helped me will help you and maybe not. But I would like to be a part of your journey to be empowered to recognize what will help and what won't. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Totally. No. Thank you so much for sharing your story, being open with all of us, and being super authentic and real. I mean, that's one of the many things I respect about you, and that we don't know who's listening who might need to hear this and like is inspired then to have the courage enough to share their story or to talk to somebody and ask them how they're doing and being able to sit there with them. And I think it's really important. Like injury, athlete identity are like really, really important topics for the athlete, and having skill set, tools, strategies, a perspective, supportive community to help them navigate through these transitions is really, really important. And you know firsthand what it's like. So you bring that lived experience
Yeah.
that can't replace anything, that fuels that passion that we're all hearing right now through the microphone. So just thank you for all you do and for who you are and all the people that you're helping and touching. It's awesome to see and be a part of with you and to see you grow. And I follow you and all your successes. So I know one thing you're super proud of and are building is the Reach In Now platform. Can you share a little bit about the sort of idea behind it, the vision for it, and kind of what it is and how we can find it?
Yeah, no, thank you for creating a space for me to be able to share my story and then also my work with Reach It Now. Reach It Now, it's really a philosophy before being a platform. And the philosophy is that, wholeness is wellness. And that meaning we need to be compassionate and hyper aware of our whole selves, right? Like we, especially athletes, we are trained to kind of lock in on certain things, certain strengths. So if I know that I'm a shooter and this is where I fit in the office and this is when I should get the ball and when I get the ball, shooters are gonna shoot. Like we lock in on those specific strengths.
Mm.
And even on kind of like a macro level, as an athlete, like I was saying, your entire identity is I play ball,
Right.
like I'm an athlete, right? But wholeness is wellness, really, it speaks to the philosophy of I'm not only an athlete, I'm a young woman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
still trying to be young. I don't
Girl,
know.
you are. Don't worry.
Uh,
You are.
but I'm so many things, right? To
Yep.
so many people.
Yep.
And I need to nurture first the relationship with myself and being accepting and compassionate for all the things that I am.
Mm.
And then also how I express that in the world, in the community, with my family, with my team. Again, compassion and awareness and acknowledgement, of all the experiences that led me to be who I am. So reaching now, it's a philosophy. And then the platform is how we leverage technology in order to be able to create those safe spaces so that we can do that collectively, right? As a community of athletes, as a community of, whomever, right? However you identify. So the way that we leverage technology is we developed a mobile application, and in its beta version, it is an anonymous text chat, application to where you can go in, talk about anything, share any type of story, and you can do so anonymously if you choose, so that you don't have to worry about, the shame or the stress of who's
Mm.
listening, that sort of thing. But the whole purpose of our V1 of the Reach and Now platform, which is available on app stores right now,
Check it out.
The whole premise of that was, let's see if we can create community, a sense of community on here. Let's build community.
Mm-hmm.
When we launched that in December of 2021, we were able to grow a community. I go around reaching now is also, we have the Well Excel programming. And so I developed health courses and training for every stakeholder group within the sports ecosystem or within any ecosystem. So for sports, it looks like training and curriculum for the athlete, as another group for coaches and for like the faculty and staff that support the athlete,
Nice.
staff, and then also training and courses for the what we call the entourage. So the family members, the friends, the fans. It's all the same messaging, but the language is different, right? The language to each of those groups, because each of those groups has a unique experience.
Right.
Sports, and each of those groups are also uniquely experienced to influence our athletes, right? Because if an athlete goes into a culture or a system that doesn't support their wellness or their wholeness for wellness, then they're going to be less likely to reach out when
Right.
there's some challenges that come up. So
That's right.
Reaching Now is also that curriculum, those courses. And the way that we leverage technology is we're able to digitize those courses, integrate them into the app so people can go onto the app and access that video content, that premier sports content, and be inspired by other athletes, professional athletes, retired athletes, champions in every space. That was something that was really important to us. And kind of the third component or user experience for us on the Reach and Now app is resources. It's the actual community and not just therapists and doctors, but as a low barrier to entry, we want people to feel comfortable talking to members of their community, right? That through lived experience or professional experience are qualified to be able to respond and to process with you, not just rush to diagnose you, right? And it's not just about a bill or an insurance type thing, but a holistic network, right? So you've got your issue, one day might be, I got to figure out how to pay my rent or my mortgage. So finances are a part of what makes us healthy, right? If we're not
For
financially
sure.
healthy, do you think mentally, like I'm going to be ready to be able to deal with anything else? No. So that's another aspect of Reaching Now is the resource network, which we call Reach Incredibles, to be able to support all the aspects, right? Wholeness is wellness. So be able to support the whole person and what they might go through, from finances to fitness to education to housing, community or social engagements. We want to talk about all of that.
Very, very cool. And I love the technology bridge of things you've already created and communities and professionals you already have in your Rolodex, like to come all on one platform. I know that the anonymous texting is also anonymously monitored for like
Right.
keywords.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about that? Because I think that's super fascinating and puts your app, sets it apart a little bit.
Yeah, no, I can definitely nerd out a little bit and
Yeah,
talk
please, let's do it.
specifically about the technology. But yeah, no, so everybody's heard of AI and all that it has to offer,
Yep.
and a lot of the risks too. There's a lot of fear, surrounding AI. And really the fear is who's moderating the moderator, right? Who's
Right.
moderating the AI. And so with our platform, we're moderating the AI, right? And we've managed or programmed the AI to be able to pick up on keywords and key phrases and context and syntax to identify if and when somebody is at any level of risk, right? Of some type of crisis. And we want to be able to predict that. So before it gets to a point of crisis, we want to be able to say, hey, just by word choice or just by engagement, what videos you're watching, that sort of thing, just by that, we're noticing kind of like a buildup of stress, right? And so you're just outside of toxic stress. And so here's some resources in your community that may help with managing that. Or, we want to be able to leverage the AI to be able to get people the help and the support that they need well before they even recognize for themselves that they may need kind of that extra support. And it also takes the responsibility away from that person. And that's where the name comes from. Reach In Now is because typically all of the responsibility is on a person to reach out, when they think that they need, some help. They have to be willing to do that too. But most of us are taught, no, just like I said, lace up the sneakers and push through. Nobody's trying to reach out, right? That's not strong, or that's not being resilient. So it's teaching people how help seeking and being a better self-identifier is actually of benefit to their wellness. And it helps people to be able to do it, right? We take the responsibility away to where we're not waiting for people to reach out, but rather they're reaching in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our technology allows us to be able to do that, where we do have moderation that picks up on different things.
That's cool.
And
So
it's
cool.
not just for risk, but we also reward, you know? So if people are
Mm.
out there and they're positive and inspirational and motivational and influencers in our community, then they get rewarded, right? And rewarded with, points, swag, invitations to exclusive events and that sort of thing. And so we want to make
Nice.
it to where it's like a real relationship, right? And natural consequences. You have some that are constructive and some that are destructive. And
Yeah.
so,
Right.
yeah, we're trying to emulate a genuine connection and community experience.
No, I love it. I love it. So awesome. People got to download it, check it out, interact with it, see what you think.
And I don't want to get away without saying, your involvement, Lisa, too, you're on our advisory board, with Ath Mindset has been such a integral partner to Reaching Now and just brainstorming content. You talked about how we have kind of like this roster of high profile performers and athletes and things like that. Ath Mindset and you, Lisa, are a part of that. And your successes and the things that you do, because I follow you too, the things that you're out there doing for the community, that's all things that we love to highlight. And so when we talk about, partnership and relationship, Reaching Now, Ath Mindset, Bianca, Lisa, you are just as much a part of all this as anything. And so, we appreciate being able to have and share platforms like this, to be able to uplift all of us out here trying to help.
Exactly. Exactly. It's more fun doing it together. And like, I don't choose who I affiliate with lightly.
Yeah.
Not like that, like I'm all exclusive and stuff, but like
Got to be
there has
selective.
yeah, selective. That's a better word. And like of like minds have the
Yeah.
same values. I mean, like you and I could be sisters from another mother type
Yeah.
thing. And it's just, we can't do it alone.
Hmm.
And so to bring our areas of strength and knowledge together with one another is really what makes it impactful and just super fun. I mean, you make me like more passionate, inspired, and help me access it again within me. And so I think it's a win-win all the way around. And like if we can share that energy with the people out there who might be looking for it or seeking it or forget that it exists or don't believe in it anymore is really, really what this is all about. So, we're doing this thing together and it's just like you said, it helps me heal too. It helps me heal. It helps me be better for the people in my life who count on me. It
Yes.
helps me with my relationship with myself,
Hmm.
my self perception, who I am, what value do I bring, and to just partner with other like just amazing human beings makes the work so much more rewarding. And so, like, I appreciate our partnership. I think that what I'd love to be able to end with is if there's anyone out there who is feeling thoughts of suicide, thinking that life is not worth living, has a teammate or friend who might have died by suicide or is going through a challenge, like Bianca, what would you want to tell them? What would you want them to remember? What would you want them to keep at top of heart? Something like that.
So many things. I've heard this question be asked to a lot of people, right? And I've been asked this question, several times. My answer changes each time because nothing ever seems like it's enough, right? It's
Mm,
not enough to say, you're not alone or, I understand and that sort of thing because when you get to a certain level of despair, such as having thoughts of suicide, or when you get to a level of despair, such as experiencing the tragedy of losing somebody to suicide, sometimes it's hard to feel the warmth from the sun. It doesn't
mm,
mean the sun isn't there, sun
mm,
hasn't risen, but it's hard to feel
mhm.
that from some of those deep and dark spaces. And so for me, the response to what I would want somebody to take into their spaces, right? Because I acknowledge and I honor that everybody has that space, that we all go to that's very private. And we're somewhere, sometimes it's hard to feel the warmth of the sun. So what I would want is to somebody to take this into that space and for every harsh thing, for every negative thing, for every way that we tear ourselves apart, and I'm going to be vulnerable, and I'm going to let you know if you're out there listening and you're having these thoughts or experiencing this despair, is I want you to know that I too have that space where I go and I beat myself up and I tell myself some
Mm,
horrible things,
mm,
and what has helped me survive and thrive after moments of despair, of utter despair, and questioning my own purpose and for being here, it's helped me to counter each one of those negative things, one of those destructive things, with something that is loving and compassionate.
mm,
Okay to give yourself permission to feel whatever you're feeling. It's okay. If you're having these thoughts, it's okay. And you know what? You're actually normal. It's
mhm,
nothing's wrong with you. Don't let the world tell you something's wrong with you or you're a bad person or
mhm,
because there's so much going on in the world today that it's a normal reaction in response to feel some level of despair, right? Some level of disconnection. And so saying all that before saying, okay, so you're not alone because there are other people that are feeling this way. And I have been one of them. I have been in that dark space before. And again, it's, for everything that I say that's destructive, I have to counter that. It's making the decision to counter that. It's fighting for your life.
literally.
Counter that. Yeah. For with something that's compassionate. It's
Mhm,
not selfish to have to focus on you.
mhm,
For a
mhm,
lot of us, I will say this, Lisa, is that, in my practice and meeting with people that have also been in the space, society will say, like suicide and things like that, or people that are chronically depressed, right? And unable to get out of that space. People will say, oh, you're being selfish, like, oh,
mm,
I can't deal with this. You're just being selfish.
hmm,
Do you know that the people that I've talked to that have been in that space are the opposite of selfish because all of what they're talking to me about is how they're worried about everybody else. They're worried about
mhm,
being a burden to everybody else. They're worried about,
mhm,
how this person is responding to their depression or to their issue, right? And so that's a misunderstanding that I want to clear up is that this isn't an issue of selfishness, There's no such thing as crying for attention and that being it because to be honest, there needs to be some attention, to the fact that,
mhm,
that
mhm,
somebody is experiencing that level of despair. And so
mhm,
if you see something as, oh, that's just them, crying for attention, crying for help, then what I want people to know is that I am no longer going to wait for them to reach out. I'm going to spread the philosophies of reaching in, right? Because
mhm,
you need attention and I will give it to you. This platform will give you the attention that you need. You're crying for help. This platform will give you the help that you need. You need community because you're isolated, right? You feel alone. This platform will give you that. And so hang on, please, to those people. Please hang on, please look me up, right now. If you're having those thoughts, look me up. I'm on all social media platforms. To be honest with you, it's hard for me to be on there as much as I probably need to be on there. But if you reach out, I get the notification, I will respond. It's at Reach In Now, on all of them. So if you go at Reach In Now, you'll be able to find us anywhere. We have a website, www.reachinnow.com. Contact us on there. Let's reach in, like let's reach in and let's start getting people connected because I can definitely understand the experience of feeling like, you're just floating in space, like nobody understands. And that existential isolation is dangerous and it's deadly,
mhm,
y'all
mhm,
thought social isolation was tough, right? During the pandemic.
mhm,
Existential isolation is feeling like nobody can understand your
mhm,
journey and experiences. And that's what I've been put on this earth to do is ask questions, to process, to have conversations, to show compassion so that I can get to a mutual point of understanding of what somebody's going through. So I implore everybody to jump on that transition from cancel culture to compassion culture and let's go.
right. Let's say that.
Let's
Well,
go.
wow. That was a lot, Bianca, and so well said. So many people need to hear it. I mean, it's not just a pat answer, it's thoughtful. It comes from your own experience as a professional, as a person. And again, sharing your vulnerability is very relatable to a lot of people. And that's, again, what makes what you're doing and reaching now so special. And so with that, I just want to thank you for just bringing your whole self to our time together and sharing all that you have. And like, I'm just really, really excited to get our conversation out into the world. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for creating the space. And Lisa, I will talk to you anytime. So thank you for reaching out and allowing me to reach in. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Athlete Mindset is part of the CASSource Podcast Network. At CASSource, we love podcasts. In fact, we love building podcasts, everything from development to production. Because of all that, we're growing this one-of-a-kind podcast network. If you have a podcast or looking to launch a new podcast, then we should talk. You can message me on Twitter at Eric_Kaz, or hit us up any way that works for you by searching CASSource on your social media app of choice. Let's talk about your podcast joining this one-of-a-kind podcast network, the CASSource Podcast Network.